My fiancée swapped my ring for a flashier one and told her coworkers I was controlling. I thought proposing to Sarah with a ring I saved months for would be one of the best moments of my life. But then she started wearing her friend's diamond to work and telling people I was financially abusive. I'd been with my fiancée Sarah for 3 years when I decided to propose. We met at a mutual friend's barbecue, hit it off over shared tastes in music and bad puns, and things moved steadily from there. By the time I was ready to pop the question, we were living together in a small apartment, splitting bills and talking about our future like it was a done deal. I wasn't rich, but I had a steady job as a project manager, and she worked in marketing at a mid-sized company. Money was tight sometimes, but we managed. I figured the proposal would be a big moment, something she'd be excited about, so I spent months saving up for a ring. I didn't know much about jewelry, but I did my research. I checked out stores, browsed online, and even asked a coworker who'd recently gotten engaged for advice. My budget was around $2,000, which was a stretch, but doable. I found a ring at a local jeweler, a simple gold band with a small diamond. Nothing flashy, but it looked elegant, and I thought it suited her style. The jeweler said it was a solid choice for the price, and I felt good about it. I proposed at a park we both liked, just the two of us, and she said yes. She seemed happy, smiling and showing off the ring to her friends when we met up with them later that weekend. Everything felt right. A couple of weeks later, though, I started noticing small things. Sarah didn't wear the ring as much as I expected. At first, I thought it was practical. She'd take it off when cooking or working out, which made sense. But then I saw she wasn't wearing it when she left for work either. When I asked about it, she said she didn't want to risk losing it or damaging it at the office. Fair enough, I thought. Her job involved a lot of typing and meetings, so maybe she was just being careful. But it kept happening, and she'd brush it off if I brought it up, saying she forgot to put it back on, or that it felt weird wearing it all day. I didn't push because I didn't want to seem controlling, but it bugged me. Then one evening, about a month after the proposal, I got a weird vibe. Sarah came home from work, and I noticed a different ring on her finger, a much bigger, shinier one. It looked expensive, way out of my price range. I asked her about it, keeping things light, and she said it was just a loaner from her friend Emily, who had a collection of jewelry. Apparently, Emily let her borrow it for a work event because Sarah wanted to look the part at some client meeting. I didn't get why she needed a different ring for that, but I let it slide. She took it off that night and put my ring back on, so I figured it was a one-time thing. But it wasn't. Over the next few weeks, I kept seeing that same flashy ring on her finger when she'd come home from work. Sometimes she'd switch it out for mine before dinner, sometimes she wouldn't. I started paying more attention and noticed she was only wearing my ring when we were together, or with people we knew. At first, I thought maybe she just liked the look of the other one better for work, but it didn't sit right. Why borrow someone else's ring so often? And why only for work? I didn't want to accuse her of anything, but I couldn't shake the feeling something was off. One night, I checked her social media while she was in the shower. Not proud of it, but curiosity got the better of me. She'd posted a photo from a work happy hour, and there was that ring again, front and center, sparkling under bar lights. The caption was something vague about feeling on top of the world, and her coworkers were commenting fire emojis and compliments. My ring wasn't in any of her recent posts. I started wondering if she was embarrassed by the one I gave her. It wasn't huge or fancy, but I'd put a lot of thought into it, and she'd seemed to love it when I proposed. The idea that she might not like it stung, but I didn't want to jump to conclusions. Things got weirder when I overheard a phone call she had with Emily. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but our apartment was small and she was in the next room. She was thanking Emily for letting her keep using the ring and said something about how it made things easier at work. Easier how? I couldn't figure it out, but it didn't sound like a one-off for a client meeting anymore. I started wondering if she was wearing Emily's ring regularly to impress people or if there was more to it. I didn't confront her right away because I wanted to be sure, but I started keeping track of when she wore which ring and what she said about it. About 2 months after the proposal, I got a call from a mutual friend, Jake, who worked in a different department at Sarah's company. He sounded awkward, like he didn't want to be the one telling me this, but he said he'd overheard some of Sarah's coworkers talking about me. Apparently, she'd been telling people at work that I was financially abusive and controlling, that I'd refused to buy her a proper ring because I wanted to keep her under my thumb. She was showing off Emily's ring, claiming it was hers, and spinning this story about how I was too cheap or manipulative to get her something nice. Jake didn't believe it. He knew me well enough to know I wasn't like that, but he thought I should know what she was saying. I was floored. I couldn't wrap my head around why she'd say something like that. I'd never controlled her money or told her what she could or couldn't do. We split everything evenly, and I'd saved up for months to get her that ring. The idea that she was telling people I was abusive, using a borrowed ring to sell the story, made no sense. I wanted to confront her, but I needed to think it through. Was she embarrassed by the ring and making up excuses? Was she trying to impress her coworkers? Or was there something else going on? I didn't know, but I knew I had to figure it out before things got worse. After Jake's call, I couldn't stop thinking about what Sarah was saying at work. The idea that she was painting me as some kind of controlling, financially abusive jerk to her coworkers made my skin crawl. I kept replaying our relationship in my head, trying to figure out where this came from. We'd had disagreements about money before, sure, who doesn't? But they were normal couple stuff, like whether to splurge on takeout or save for a weekend trip. I'd never once told her how to spend her money or tried to control her life. The ring I bought her wasn't some cheap trinket. It was the best I could afford, and I thought she'd appreciated it. Clearly, I was wrong. I decided to watch her more closely, not in a creepy way, but just to understand what was going on. I noticed she was still switching rings, wearing Emily's big diamond to work and my ring when she was with me or our friends. It was like she was living two different stories. At home, she acted normal, planning our wedding, talking about venues and guest lists like nothing was wrong. But every morning, she'd leave for work with that other ring on, and I couldn't shake the feeling she was ashamed of the one I gave her. I started wondering if this was about more than just the ring. Maybe it was about me, or us, or something deeper. I didn't want to confront her without solid proof, so I started digging a little. I knew it wasn't the best move, but I checked her work bag one evening while she was out with friends. Tucked in a side pocket was a small jewelry box with Emily's ring inside, not on her finger like usual. It confirmed she was deliberately switching them out. I also found a receipt from a coffee shop near her office, dated for a day she told me she was working late. Nothing crazy, but it made me wonder if she was meeting someone or doing something she wasn't telling me about. I felt guilty snooping, but the lies about the ring and what she was saying at work were eating at me. A few days later, I got another heads up from Jake. He said one of Sarah's coworkers, someone she was close with, had been asking around about me, trying to figure out if the financial abuse story checked out. Apparently, Sarah had been telling people she had to borrow Emily's ring to keep up appearances because I wouldn't let her buy nice things. The coworker was skeptical and had asked Jake if I was really like that. Jake set them straight, saying I was a decent guy and that the story sounded off, but the fact that Sarah was spreading this narrative to multiple people made my blood boil. I wasn't just hurt anymore, I was angry. I started thinking about why she'd do this. Sarah had always cared about how people saw her. She was big on social media, always posting about her outfits or work events, and she liked looking polished. Her marketing job was competitive, and she'd mentioned feeling pressure to fit in with the fancy crowd at her office, people who drove nice cars and wore designer stuff. I wondered if she felt my ring didn't measure up to their standards. Maybe she thought a bigger diamond made her look more successful, or maybe she was insecure about our life compared to her coworkers. But making up stories about me being abusive? That was a step too far. I decided to talk to Emily, Sarah's friend who owned the ring. Emily and I weren't super close, but we'd hung out enough that I figured she'd be straight with me. I texted her, keeping it casual, and asked if we could grab coffee. She agreed, and we met up at a cafe near her place. I didn't want to come off like I was interrogating her, so I started by asking about her jewelry collection, saying I'd noticed Sarah borrowing her ring. Emily seemed surprised I knew about it. She said Sarah had asked to borrow it a few times for work events, claiming she didn't want to wear her real ring because it might get damaged. Emily thought it was weird but didn't question it much. She had a bunch of rings and didn't mind lending one out. I pressed a little, asking if Sarah had said anything about me or the engagement. Emily got quiet, then admitted Sarah had complained about the ring I got her, saying it wasn't what she expected and that she felt embarrassed wearing it around her coworkers. Emily didn't know about the abuse story, but she said Sarah had been acting off lately, more stressed about work and obsessed with how people perceived her. Emily thought it was just pressure from her job, but she didn't realize Sarah was wearing her ring every day or telling people I was controlling. I thanked her for being honest and left, feeling like I had half the puzzle but still missing something big. Back home, I tried to act normal, but it was hard. Sarah was still her usual self around me, affectionate, making plans, acting like we were fine. But every time I saw her leave for work with Emily's ring, it felt like a punch. I started wondering how long she'd been lying and whether this was just about the ring or something bigger. Was she unhappy with me? With our life? Was she trying to impress someone specific at work? I didn't know, but I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I decided I had to confront her, but I needed to do it carefully without blowing up and making things worse. I started planning how to bring it up, hoping I could get the truth without ruining everything we'd built. I spent a few days mulling over how to confront Sarah, the lies she was telling at work, the ring switching, and the way she was presenting herself as a victim were too much to ignore. I wasn't just hurt. I was starting to question everything about our relationship. I wanted answers, but I also wanted to keep things calm and avoid a blowout fight. I decided to talk to her after dinner one night when we'd both be relaxed and there'd be no rush to go anywhere. My plan was to lay out what I knew, stay factual, and give her a chance to explain. That evening, I waited until we were cleaning up the kitchen. Sarah was in a good mood, joking about a coworker's bad presentation at work. I took a deep breath and brought up the ring. I told her I'd noticed she was wearing Emily's ring to work a lot, and that I'd heard from Jake about what she was saying to her coworkers, about me being financially abusive and controlling. I kept my tone even, saying I was confused and wanted to understand why she felt the need to tell people that. Her face changed instantly. She looked caught, like she hadn't expected me to know. She put down the dish she was drying and started fidgeting with her hands. At first, she denied it, saying Jake must have misunderstood or that her co-workers were exaggerating. But I pushed back, mentioning the ring switching and what Emily had told me about her complaints. Sarah got quiet, then started crying. She said she didn't mean for things to get out of hand. According to her, it started because she felt self-conscious at work. Her office was full of people who showed off expensive things, bags, watches, jewelry, and she felt like my ring made her look less than. She admitted she'd borrowed Emily's ring to fit in, thinking it would make her seem more successful. The story about me being abusive wasn't something she planned, she claimed. It slipped out during a conversation with a coworker who'd asked about the ring, and she panicked, saying I hadn't wanted to get her a real one. From there, the story spread, and she felt too embarrassed to correct it. I asked why she didn't just talk to me about how she felt. She said she didn't want to hurt my feelings or make me think she was ungrateful, but that excuse didn't sit right. She'd had no problem hurting me by lying to her coworkers, making me out to be some kind of monster. I told her how betrayed I felt, that I'd saved for months to get her that ring, and that her actions made me question whether she respected me at all. She kept apologizing, saying she got caught up in the pressure of her job and didn't know how to stop once the lie started. She swore she didn't mean it and that she loved me. I wasn't sure what to believe. Part of me wanted to work through it. She seemed genuinely sorry and we'd built a life together. But another part of me couldn't get past the fact that she'd lied so easily, and not just about the ring, but about me to people we both knew. I told her I needed time to think and asked her to stay at her sister's place for a few days. She didn't argue, just packed a bag and left, still crying and saying she'd do anything to fix it. While she was gone, I talked to a close friend about everything. He pointed out that Sarah's need to impress her coworkers might be a sign of deeper issues, maybe insecurity, maybe a mismatch in our values. He asked if I could trust her after this, and I didn't have a clear answer. I spent those days alone thinking about our relationship. The ring wasn't the real problem, it was what her actions said about her priorities. She cared more about how strangers saw her than about being honest with me. I started wondering if this was a one-time screw-up or a pattern I'd missed. When Sarah came back, we had a long talk, and I told her I wasn't sure I could move forward with the engagement. The trust was broken, and I didn't know if we could rebuild it. She begged me to give her a chance, promising to come clean to her coworkers and stop wearing Emily's ring. She even offered to go to counseling together. I appreciated that she was trying, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted. I told her I needed more time and that we should put the wedding plans on hold. In the weeks that followed, Sarah did what she promised. She told her coworkers the truth, which Jake confirmed later. She stopped wearing any ring to work and started wearing mine again, though it felt more like a gesture than something genuine. We tried counseling for a bit, but I couldn't get past the resentment. Every time I looked at her, I remembered the lies. About 3 months later, I ended things. It wasn't dramatic, just a quiet conversation where I said I didn't think we could make it work. She moved out, and we haven't spoken much since. Looking back, I don't think Sarah was a bad person. She got caught up in her own insecurities and made a stupid choice that snowballed. But the whole thing taught me a lot about what I want in a relationship. Honesty, respect, and someone who's okay with who we are, not who they want others to think we are. I kept the ring in a drawer for a while, then sold it. Felt like closing a chapter.